Hi guys, welcome back TV Spoilers. Today I'm going to reveal a haunting worry of the Newman family that's keeping them awake at night. It's a premonition of things that could happen to Nick next week, bringing trouble. Victoria warns Nick about Matt's threat, which could put him in serious danger. In a critical moment when Matt Clark intends to harm Nick, Victoria rushes in to confront him herself. This reckless act demonstrates her love for Nick, but also puts Victoria in imminent danger, potentially leading to a dramatic and shocking confrontation. Victoria isn't usually the type to panic, but this time, even she feels a growing pressure, heavy and icy like an invisible hand squeezing the air around the Newman family. The danger is no longer a vague rumor or a name from the past mentioned cautiously. Matt Clark, now hiding behind the name Mitch Bacall, had truly reappeared like a ghost refusing to die, carrying with him all this dark history, old grudges, and the terrifying silence of someone who doesn't need to scream to keep others awake at night. To outsiders, he was just a new face with a new name. But to those who knew him, especially Nick, this return was like an old door being flung open, letting the musty smell of the past flood into the present. Victoria saw the change in Nick even before he admitted anything. It wasn't the fear clearly visible on his face, nor the easily recognizable outburst of anger. On the contrary, it was Nick's silence that worried her. He became way more wary of every small movement, his eyes lingered longer on hidden corners, and even short phone calls caused him to clench his jaw. Nick had already endured too many hardships, too many times having to bear the consequences for others, but this time something was different. Matt's presence wasn't just a current threat. It stirred up deeply wounded memory, a place where Nick had been placed in unfair situations, dragged into the vortex of others' wrongdoings. Victoria understood this all too well, and it was precisely because she understood that she couldn't stand idly by and watch her brother continue to be worn down. She warned Nick, not only with the rationality of someone who had witnessed many storms in their family, but also the worry of an older sister who knew Nick often tended to shoulder everything himself. Victoria knew he was strong, but she also knew that strength sometimes turned into a habit of understanding himself. When someone like Matt constantly tries to approach, threaten, and push the other person's psyche to the brink of exhaustion, even resilience can become a weakness. Victoria saw in Nick a growing tension, a quiet but dangerous kind of tension that was deeply ingrained in his thoughts, making him lose the ability to believe he was safe. She didn't want to wait until things spiraled out of control before reacting. She didn't want Nick to become the target of someone who lived by hatred and manipulation again. Victoria's decision, therefore, didn't stem from mere impulsiveness, but from a pent-up process of fear, anger, and helplessness. She clearly saw Nick being put on the defensive, always on guard, always guessing where Matt would appear from and how he would continue his psychological terror. And Victoria hated that feeling. She hated that a man like Matt could brazenly return, change his name, change his identity, and continue spreading darkness as if the past never existed. She hated that Nick had to live in a state of constant readiness for the worst. Most importantly, she hated the feeling of being a mere bystander. It was this resentment that led her to decide to confront Matt herself, even though she knew deep down it was a risky move. This is what makes the story so emotionally impactful. It doesn't portray perfect courage, but rather courage with a price, consequences, and accompanying fear. Victoria doesn't win Matt against it in an absolute sense. She only gains a moment, a temporary safety for Nick, in exchange for stepping into the heart of the threat herself. But sometimes, in stories like Y&R, it's these small victories that leave the viewer most conflicted, because everyone knows the emotional price the character pays afterward is significant. It makes the character more human, more relatable, and more memorable. Personally, I really liked this approach because it retains the characteristic dramatic tension of Y&R, but doesn't turn everything into a simple confrontation. What makes the scene powerful isn't just how dangerous Matt is, but how Victoria chooses to face danger with familial love, and how Nick is both protected and simultaneously plunged into deeper worry for his sister. The feeling left after reading isn't satisfaction at stopping the villain, but a very real tension. The storm has only just subsided, and those who love each other the most are often the most vulnerable when it returns. If it continues in this direction, the story will be more compelling because it hits on what Y&R does best, turning the past into a living crack, then letting each other decide whether they will mend it or be consumed by it.